kids, Ben here for yet another episode of Kids Talk. It's going to be a great episode today, and we're learning some very important things about praying to God today. Before we start, as always, we're going to gather some things up. First off, grab your Bibles. Second off, something to write with. And lastly, something to write on. But wait, we have one last thing for today's episode, and that is another piece of paper that you will need for a special project for this episode. We're going to give you 90 seconds to gather all of these things, just like every other episode. But before we start, I'm going to go through the items we need again. Bible, something to write with, something to write on, and lastly, another piece of paper. This is going to be a great episode today, and we're going to learn something really important about prayer. And I want you guys to be listening what that thing about prayer is during this episode. I'm so excited. See you guys later.
Hello everyone, welcome to Kids Talk. I'm your host, Pastor Brent, and I'm joined today by Marina.
Good morning, everyone.
We are so glad that you've joined us today, and you're in for a great show. Marina, how you doing?
I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Have you heard from Amanda yet?
No, I haven't. Why?
Well, she told me that she was going to give me the word of the day and curse of the day.
What are these?
Looks like airplanes. Hold on a second. I see writing inside of mine. Oh, look, I have a note. Looks like it's from Amanda.
What does it say?
It says, today's word of the day is something that requires patience. It's before us, even though it's hard to see. That much mean it's on yours.
Maybe. Let me take a look.
So what's on your paper?
There is nothing on my paper.
Nothing on your paper?
It was just an airplane. I wonder what she means by that.
That's weird.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm writing a note to Amanda.
And how are you going to get it there?
Listen, if you can talk to her by cup phone like you did last week, I can certainly talk with Amanda.
Oh, no way.
By
You'll
paper
never
airplane.
get it.
Watch.
Oh, what's this? Ah, looks like they got my message, but they don't know what to do with it. You know what? I was hoping they would write back. They really do have the word of the day with them. It's on Marina's paper. So I hope they don't toss it. I better write back to them quickly before they get rid of it.
What's that?
See?
It looks like a note back from Amanda.
Can't believe that worked. How did you guys do that?
Of course it works. Better than your phone. Oh, listen to this. Here's the note she wrote back. Many people in the Bible came to God looking for answers, but didn't always see what God was doing, even though the answer was before them. The word of the day is written in invisible ink on Marina's paper. That is so cool. Because you asked for help, I will give you the instructions to reveal the word you need. Here's what we need, Marina.
Okay.
a quarter of a cup of rubbing alcohol, plus half a teaspoon of turmeric powder. Oh, and there's an extra little hint here. Make sure something is under the paper because turmeric can stain.
Don't worry, I got orange on today.
Oh, nice. P.S. The verse of the day is also on the back of this letter.
What? On yours also?
Right there, but I can't see it.
I can't see anything
All
on
right,
mine.
Marina, this is too cool. We need that mixture so that we can take care of this. I want to see what the word of the day and the verse
I'll
of the day
go put
is.
that together. I'll be right back, okay?
All right, go
All
get
right.
it. Well, I guess I'm going to have to be patient to figure out what the message on the back of this is. But here's the thing. I'm not really a very patient person. In fact, I really hate to wait for things. I don't like waiting in line. I don't like waiting for my food when I'm sitting at a restaurant. I really don't like waiting for my kids to be obedient. So patience is not one of the things that I really like. The other thing is I have lots of questions. I like to ask questions and I like to get the answers right away, but it's not always the way it happens. In fact, I really like to ask God questions and I wish he would answer me right away. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. I'd love to hear what your questions for God are. But you know what? I'd love to hear what Ben's questions for God are. I bet Ben has asked questions of God before, and I wonder what kind of answers he's gotten back. So let's ask him. Ben, what kind of questions do you have for God?
Hey kids, Ben here again. I have a story in my life where I prayed for over 2.5 years before God answered my prayer. The story starts when I was 17 and I was in high school and I didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life. What job I was supposed to have, whether I was supposed to go to college or start working. I didn't know if God wanted me to be a librarian or an astronaut or a scientist. I didn't know. And so I asked God, God, what do you want me to do with my life? Because God knows better than I did. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And a couple years later, I graduated from high school and I still didn't have an answer. So then I went to college. I went to Shoreline Community College. And then there, I went to a retreat from Westgate with the young adults. And God finally answered my prayer and he told me to go into ministry. I left that retreat and it was so awesome that God answered my prayer, but I was starting to second guess God's answer to my prayer. I remember one time I asked God, God, is this really something that you want me to do? And I decided I was going to go listen to a sermon on YouTube. And so I go on YouTube and I pray, Jesus, give me a sermon of someone teaching about what you want me to do. And so I go and I search good sermon on YouTube and I click on the first video that showed up. And the pastor that was speaking to a bunch of people who were called to be pastors. And from that, I knew that God called me into ministry to be a pastor. From then on, I knew that God answered my prayer. But it took over 2.5 years for God to answer my prayer. I had to be patient in praying to God. For from this, I learned that God's timing is perfect. And that even when you're praying, God is always listening, and sometimes it feels like God isn't listening. Sometimes you get frustrated. I got really frustrated when I was praying. I got really frustrated because I didn't even think God was listening. But God is a God who loves you more than anything else in the entire world. He knows you better than anyone else, and he loves you just for who you are. And if he loves you so much, you can know that he always listens to your prayers and that he never forgets your prayers. So keep on praying. Keep on asking questions and keep on praying to God because he always listens and he never forgets your prayers. And he loves you so much. And you know, someday he's going to answer it. You may not know when or how, but he always answers our prayers. Back to you, Pastor Brent.
Ben, that was so cool. I'm glad that you had the confidence to ask God questions and that you were able to get some answers from him. So it's really cool when we can ask him questions and get answers. Let's hold off on decoding our messages. We're going to wait just a little bit longer, have a little patience, because all this talk about Ben asking questions and having questions for God makes me think about a story in the Bible that I'd love to share today.
What's it called?
Well, it's from the book of Habakkuk.
What?
Yes, that's right, Habakkuk. Do you know where the book of Habakkuk is?
No, but I had a little bit of a trouble finding things last week.
Well,
so.
I know. I watched you and Ben racing.
Yeah.
Habakkuk is in the Old Testament. It's really near the end of the Old Testament.
Okay.
It's one of the last few books there. And I won't tell you the page number because I want you to just be able to find it. So It's the book of Habakkuk. Now, Habakkuk was one of the prophets, and he lived about 600 years before Jesus came to earth. And he was a pretty cool guy, and he asked lots of questions. He was really inquisitive. He liked to know things. And so in the beginning of this book, he goes to God and he starts asking him questions, and he's actually kind of complaining as he's doing it. And he starts out in the very beginning, he says, "How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" I mean, that's kind of a bold statement right there. And he says, "Violence is everywhere, but it doesn't seem like you're doing anything about it. How, do I have to live with this forever?" Like, he's asking this question that is essentially, why does bad stuff happen? And why does it seem like the evil people prosper? Now,
He seems frustrated, though. It seems like he's been talking about this for a while. That's probably why he's asking like that.
I think he's been wondering this and talking about it for a while. Now, actually, it reminds me of a really good friend of mine from high school. And when we were in high school, one of his biggest questions that he had that kind of kept him from giving his life to God was why do bad things happen to good people? And I've heard tons of people ask that, and I tried to answer that question, and honestly, I don't know if he's ever finally given his life to Jesus and invited Jesus into his life, and I hope it's not just that question has kept him from that, but it's good for us to ask questions. Like, it's good that Habakkuk was asking this question. And one of the things that I love about this book is it isn't just a one-way conversation.
Is it just a book about him asking the questions?
No,
Is that the whole thing?
the book, it's really short. It's only 3 chapters. And it actually records this conversation between Habakkuk and God. So Habakkuk gives this complaint at the beginning. And then God starts to answer him. And I love it because here's, like, in verse number 5, here it is. The Lord replied, "Look around at the nations, look and be amazed, for I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't believe even if somebody told you about it."
Wow, that's a pretty cool answer.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that's so cool about God is that he's saying, even if somebody said, this is the way it's going to happen, you wouldn't believe it because it's beyond what your puny little brain can handle, which I think is pretty cool. Now, God goes on to say a few things just to kind of set the tone of who he is. And then Habakkuk kind of goes back into another complaint. He goes around again asking more questions and saying, "But look, God, this is the way it's happening, and aren't you going to fix it?" And then God comes back with another reply. Okay, this second reply is more, it's kind of like a reply like we saw in the book of Job, where God says, "Did you do all these things? Are you the one that created this stuff? I have put together all these things. Do you know how amazing it is? Look at all this stuff that's happening. Do you know the future? I know the future." And God kind of talks to him for a little bit, and then at the very end, Habakkuk, it's like the light bulb goes on in his head. Okay. He says, "Oh, God, I see what it is you're doing." And he starts into this prayer, and it says the prayer was sung by Habakkuk.
Yeah, it looks like they made it into a song to keep going and re-singing this, right? Yeah, what did it say?
It starts out, "I've heard all about you, Lord. I'm filled with awe by your amazing works. And in this time of deep need, help us again, just as you did in the past." And he goes on. And so Habakkuk all of a sudden realizes how powerful God is, how awesome God is, and how much he should praise him and continue to ask him for help, and then trust God to answer him and provide the help that he and the people around him need, even if he doesn't see it the way that it doesn't make sense.
So he recalled all the stories. It's like God made him think about everything that he's done, recalled all the stories, and goes, "Of course, I will wait patiently because you'll do it again."
That's one of the great reasons we have the Bible. Because we can go back and we can look at all these stories and see the things that God has done and recognize how amazing he is. And then it teaches us to trust him and even to wait for him for the answers. So, Marina, I think we're supposed to start learning a little bit of patience and some trust from all of this.
Because I don't know if I trust Amanda that she actually wrote anything on here. I think she just made me make this thing that's messy for no reason.
Well, are you ready to see what our messages are?
I might, but do you want to go see commercial real quick?
All right, I'll wait a little bit longer.
All right, gonna go practice your patience.
Yep, we'll be right back after this commercial break. Wow, Marina, invisible ink is so cool. I can't believe this.
It's really cool.
Right here on the back of this letter is the verse of the day.
All right, read it to me.
All right, here it is. It's found in John 14:14, and it says, "You ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it."
That's really cool. That goes really well with our story. For
It
sure.
does.
Okay,
It
I
does.
can't
All right, come on. Let's
I
see
wanna
what's
know
on the
what
back of
mine
yours.
says. Yes, all right, ready? Okay, I'm really glad I have that tissue. Everything's getting, oh, no way. I can so see it. All right, you guys ready for this? That's the word of the day right there.
The word of the day is wait.
That's perfect.
Okay, so this is perfect. It goes perfect with what we've been talking about. Habakkuk went and he was going to the Lord with his complaints and asking a lot of questions. Why are these things happening? God, are you going to fix it? Are you going to help us out? And just like our verse says, you can ask me anything and I'll answer. So God was going to answer him, but it took a little while. It wasn't in Habakkuk's timing. He wanted it to happen really fast, but God was telling him to wait. Now, a lot of the Old Testament prophets, not only did they have to just wait a little while, oftentimes they had to wait years and years, and sometimes the things that they were praying about and that God was telling them didn't even happen within their lifetimes. It would happen after they were already gone. And so, waiting is a big deal. We have our ideas of how fast we want things to happen, and we usually want them to happen really fast, like the fast food restaurant. But that's not really the way God has it. See, God knows more than we do. He sees across the whole picture of time. He knows the end from the very beginning. He knows what's going to happen in our life and the lifetimes after us. And we have to trust him that in his timing, he's going to deliver the right answer that's usually better than the answer that we've come up in our minds. So we have to learn to trust him. But in the middle of that, we can keep asking him questions and listening to him. It's this back and forth. Just like in this book of Habakkuk, there's this back and forth between him and God.
So you're saying we have to do just like the prophets do and just keep praying and waiting and keep praying. I feel like that's the whole bottom line of all the prophets. Keep praying.
I think it is. We got to keep praying. And why do we do that? Because we trust that God will answer. We trust that his answers will be better than our answers. We trust that he knows the best course of action for us and the right timing to do it. So, Marina, here's the thing. I know that the things that I've asked God for and the things that some of the answers that he's given me and answers that I'm still waiting for. So kids, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to ask your parents some questions. Ask them what types of questions they've asked the Lord for. What things has he answered them on? Like, what answers have they given him? Just like we heard from Ben. And then, what questions would they really love to ask God, but maybe even haven't had the guts to do yet? And then, what things are they still waiting for answers on? I think that's really good, because we have to learn that we can ask God for anything, and he will do it.
But wait.
But wait.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, guys. We are so glad you joined us this morning, and it's time for us to say goodbye until next week. So have a great week. Oh, Marina.
Yes.
Before we go, we probably need to issue a couple challenges and make sure they have the recipes.
That's true. So if you guys would like to do this at home, these are the ingredients that you need to write the message, just like Miss Amanda was saying. You need baking soda and water, and we'll put the ingredients right here on the screen so you can see how much of it to put in. You will write it down on a piece of paper and let that dry up. After it's all dry, you will need to do what I did and make sure you're really careful with this. Do that with an adult, maybe, or a parent. So you will need turmeric powder and alcohol, rubbing alcohol. And when you mix that together, and we'll also put that on the screen of how much of both you'll need, then you'll take that paper with invisible writing, smear it on, and you will see exactly what that says. It's super cool. Do that this week, and when you do that, tag us so we can see what you're doing at home and how much fun you're having.
You know, the other thing I'd love to find, Marina,
Yes.
I would love to see their best paper airplane.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, see, I had to YouTube a lot of airplanes to make this one, so I can't even.
All right. Guys, have a great week. We will see you again next week. Send us the pictures of your secret messages and your paper airplanes. And don't forget to ask your parents those questions. We'll see you next time on Kids Talk.